Where the hell am I? Welcome to the penalty box. Woo! Alright, I'm going to do this as fast as possible. There's a lot to cover, so here's what happened in the last 2 weeks. Leafs win 2-1 over the New York Islanders. Clark MacArthur with the opening salvo, Kessel with the winner. 2 notes here about goalies. Al Montoya. What a performance he put out here. Islanders, hang on to this guy. DiPietro's not the real deal, but this guy is. At the other end, well, this doesn't have to do with goalies as much as D-men, but it deserves some attention. Komisarek and Lebda. When was the last time you heard those two names? Lebda has had a tough season adjusting to life in Toronto, so has Komisarek. In fact, Komisarek has had a tough time since joining the team 2 seasons ago. But recently, their play has quietly improved. Think about it, you haven't noticed Lebda and Komisarek in the games especially recently, right? That's what you want from those guys, quiet, defensively responsible hockey. And I think a lot of it has to do with Reimer. When you're not worried about your goalie in net, you're not focusing on not making mistakes, and you can play your game. I think Reimer's a calming presence. It can't be a coincidence that the whole team has improved since he stepped in. Next game, the Leafs keep it going in Montreal with a 5-4 victory. And look at that, Brett Lebda with his first goal as a Maple Leaf. Booming shot from the point, it's in. His season's looking a lot better. And the Leafs clawed their way within 4 points of a playoff spot. Now let me ask you all honestly, aside from Jeff Morris, who would have predicted this? Because 2 months ago we were mired in losing streak after losing streak, goalie troubles, and I just kind of gave up hoping for it. So be honest, was anyone out there thinking playoffs? But now, it's a distinct possibility. Anyway, on we go. Leafs lose the next game 6-5 in the shootout against the Pittsburgh Penguins. But Joffrey Lupul, what a game, scoring his first 2 goals as a Maple Leaf. Which is great. I've liked Lupul ever since he arrived. Maybe he hasn't been scoring that much, but he chips in defensively, sets up plays, contributing in not as flashy, but essential ways. Anyway, the newest Penguin, Kovalev, scores the shootout winner and Leafs lose. But hey, they kept the point streak going, which is better than nothing. Moving on, Leafs lose 3-2 in overtime against the Atlanta Thrashers in a Sunday matchup. Here's what sucks about this game. Leafs are up 2-0 in the second, but Reimer gets hit in the head by Evander Kane. So, just in case he has a concussion, he gets pulled, in goes Giguère. Then Giguère lets in 3 straight goals to lose the game. That right there is why we couldn't trade Giguère. He costs way too much for the kind of results he's giving. It's also the reason we shouldn't re-sign him, because Reimer is clearly the #1 right now. Gustafsson can produce and just needs a confidence boost. But Giguère has looked shaky all season long. I like him as a player, but his time's up. Oh, by the way, luckily Reimer was okay afterward, didn't have a concussion. On to the trade deadline. After 3 major deals that saw Beauchemin, Versteeg, and Caberlet leave town, and showing interest in Colorado defenseman John Michael Lyles, Brian Burke decides mostly to stand pat at the deadline, choosing only to deal forward John Mitchell to New York Rangers for a 7th round draft pick. This was simply the right choice. I mean, yes, it would have been nice to get Lyles as a puck-moving D-man, but Colorado just decided to keep him. And as for some people thinking that we need to pick up another player to help for the playoff push, Doing that would probably mean dealing away one of our draft picks or prospects, or one of our building blocks for the future, which wouldn't make sense long term. You see, I want the Leafs to make the playoffs, but not if its sacrifice is part of our plan for the future. So I'm prepared for the Leafs not making it. I came to that conclusion 2 months ago. Because with a piece or two in free agency, this team has proven that they have what it takes to make the playoffs next year, as long as they have good goaltending. As for John Mitchell, he played himself into a nobody while he was here. He was a decent player but never quite fulfilled his potential or took the next step to become a piece of the puzzle going forward. Send him off to New York, maybe he can find his place with them. Good luck, John. Next matchup, the Leafs get revenge on the Penguins, winning 3-2 in overtime. And the biggest story here was Dion Phaneuf's end-to-end rush. With the game pushed to overtime at 2 apiece, Dion Phaneuf picks up the puck behind the net and takes off. Leads the rush into Pittsburgh and does a little back and forth to buy time for a line change and peels off 2 defenders. He passes it off, it finds its way to Grabowski, and the rest is history. That end-to-ender was a game saver. It's good to see Dion finally getting back some offensive production that he was known for in Calgary. And with that goal, Grabowski scores his first goal in 7 games and the 3rd OT winner of his career. And continuing their play against the elite teams, the Leafs square off against the Philadelphia Flyers and win 3-2. Lots to talk about here. Chris Versteeg gets both Philly goals, apparently itching for revenge. Clark MacArthur gets an assist on the Nikolai Kulemin tip-in on the opening goal. That's 50 points of the season so far, which is a new career high for him. Keith Ollie earns himself a new nickname, Muhammad Ali, after squaring off with veteran tough guy Scott Hartnell. And believe it or not, the rookie knocks out Scott Hartnell to win his first NHL fight. Way to go, champ. And Captain Fedef getting the tying goal from a scoop-in at the side of the net. That's the deal on the plate in Calgary. His offensive play is improving game by game. That's great news for the Leafs to find some offensive punch on the back end. And of course, Darryl Boyce with the winner with only minutes left in the third. And with that, the Leafs get points in 9 straight games, winning 6 of them. And on to the last game, the Leafs end a good week on a sour note, losing 5-3 to Chicago. And even though the score says it's a 2-goal game, it was no contest. Chicago was leading 5-1 after 2 periods. One of the few positives from the game is Lupul scoring his 3rd as a Leaf. It's good to see his production finally taking off. We'll need it over the course of the rest of the season. After letting in 5 goals, Reimer got pulled after 2 periods, a rare bad outing for him. And what Wilson said about this game was right. You're bound to have a bad game, especially when you play as many as Reimer. He's played 10 straight games. In fact, this year he's played more hockey than since he was in junior. We can't win every game and Reimer will be back. Hopefully this is just a blip on the radar. But unfortunately, this was the worst possible time to have a blip, because everything that could have gone wrong over the weekend did. The New York Rangers won their game against Philadelphia on Sunday to regain 7th in the East, 7 points up on the Leafs. Buffalo won both their weekend games against Philadelphia and Minnesota to gain 8th, 5 points up on the Leafs with a game in hand. And Toronto lost to remain 10th, 5 points out of a playoff spot. But I have to say, even though I really want the Leafs to make the playoffs, I'll still consider this season a success if we don't. Remember, we're only 1 season out from being 2nd last in the entire league. Consider the breakout play of the Grabowski, Kulemin, MacArthur line, or the former Marlies that have made a big impact, Tim Brent, Joey Crabb, Darryl Boyce, and Keith Ollie. The revelation that is James Reimer. So yeah, maybe we won't make the playoffs this year, but we've got a lot to be happy about and hopeful for even without the playoffs. What I'm saying is we're headed in the right direction. Baby steps, people, baby steps. Anyway, big week coming up. Hopefully we can refine our winning ways. Go Leafs, go!